Have you ever wondered why everyone seems to be putting down their books? Over the past few years, there's been a massive shift in how we consume information, and it has been rewiring your brain in ways you don't even realize. Everything has changed, and I'm not only going to reveal to you what's been secretly happening to everyone's minds, but also how you can reclaim your mind before it's too late in one simple step. And there's a lot more to this than you think. Now, to address the elephant in the room, probably one of the main reasons why people don't read anymore is this. I mean, why would you want to read when you have everything on your phone? There's social media, there's video games, there's Minecraft, anything that you could think of, it's on your phone. There's a bunch of colors, and you just want to keep scrolling for that next dopamine hit. Why would you ever want to read something that's way more boring than the incredibly exciting world on here? Now, I think something that's not talked about enough is that your phone is literally meant to make you addicted. Every single app that you can think of right now, whether it may be TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Clash of Clans, every single app is meant to make you addicted and to try to keep you on there for as long as possible. It is literally a time suck. And as Andrew Huberman once said,
I always say addiction is a progressive narrowing of the things that bring you pleasure.
so when you're on Instagram or when you're on TikTok or when you're playing Clash of Clans or doing anything on your phone, that is way more stimulating than sitting down and reading a book. And your brain has literally been rewired to get used to that stimulus. That is the stimulus that it expects. Let's say that the amount of stimulation your brain needed for you to have fun was over here. Now it's through the roof, right? Anything that you do that doesn't stimulate you as much as your phone, your brain is going to think it's boring because the stimulation that it is used to and expects is something as exciting as a phone. And reading is obviously not that. And not only that, but consuming so much fast-paced, bite-sized content on our phone is literally changing the way our brains develop. There's a study by the University of California that shows that we are losing our ability to sit down and focus on things because our brains have been so adapted to just scrolling and consuming short-form, fast-paced, bite-sized content. Now, keeping all this in mind, it's very easy to point the finger at social media and phones and say that this is the reason most people are not reading. But there's way more to this story, especially when it comes to how you and probably everyone interacted with books as a child. And I'm not gonna lie, this is the one that pisses me off the most. As a kid, you were probably ordered to read books or read texts to do assignments that you didn't even want to do, and the text was something you didn't even want to enjoy. In fact, you probably disliked it so much that your mind started to associate reading with something that's frustrating, difficult, and not enjoyable. Think about how crazy this is. From a young age, you have literally been psychologically conditioned to not like reading. I mean, even think about it right now. When you think about sitting down and reading a book, it probably doesn't sound entertaining. It probably doesn't sound like something you want to do. It sounds like something that would be frustrating, something that would be boring, something that you would have to force yourself to do and it wouldn't come naturally. Well, there's a reason for that. And the reason is all the friction that's in your mind to read because of the negative associations your mind has with reading. The way you think of reading in and of itself is flawed, which is why you don't have motivation to read. There's also insane expectations in school around reading. Most of the time you read, you have to extract the information out of something, whether that's a book, a text, or an excerpt, and use it to complete an assignment or maybe a test. This has made it so you've never had the chance to read something for fun, and your mind has never had the chance to identify reading as something that is enjoyable and fun. Also, because of the insane amount of unnecessary workload for reading at school, most kids don't even read. Most kids just read book summaries online and then use it to complete the assignments. And the material that we're being told to read is just pointless. It doesn't teach you anything. But I digress. These tests and assignments have also made it so your bandwidth for reading is extremely short. I mean, reading is like a muscle, right? The more you sit down and read, the better you're going to get at it, and the more your mind is going to be able to do something like that and focus on a book for a long period of time. Now, most people, since they never sit down and read, their bandwidth for reading is extremely short because it's like a muscle. And if you don't exercise it, it's obviously going to be weak. Now, if you thought that was messed up, you're going to love this next one. This next reason is probably the strongest reason why most people never develop the habit of reading and have such shallow brains. And this is that you have literally been robbed of your motivation to read. As absurd as this sounds, school has literally conditioned you to not read unless you're getting an immediate reward, such as a grade. I mean, think about one of the most common questions asked in American classrooms today. Is this graded? There's a very famous and thought-provoking experiment called the Gold Star Experiment. In this experiment, they take a group of kindergartners that love drawing. If you leave them alone, they have an intrinsic motivation to draw, meaning that they will draw even if they gain nothing out of it simply because they like drawing. Now, they took these kids that love drawing on their own and they started giving them a gold star every time they drew a picture. And at the start, the kindergartners are very happy. A gold star is something that's very positive and it gives them a very good amount of validation for their drawings. Now, the interesting part comes in now, because earlier these kids were drawing on their own. Now they're drawing and they're getting gold stars. So the researchers now stop giving these children gold stars to draw. Just suddenly they stop giving them gold stars. So now these kids are drawing, but they're not getting gold stars. And guess what happens? The kindergartners stop drawing. Now these were the same kids that were drawing earlier for no gold star because they just liked drawing. And now that they're in that same situation, they don't find drawing enjoyable anymore. This is because earlier their motivation to draw was intrinsic, meaning that their brain themselves gave them validation to draw. Whenever they drew, their brain signaled to them that they're doing good, that they're on a right path, that keep doing what you're doing. So they gained dopamine out of that. But when they started getting gold stars, their intrinsic motivation to draw got decimated because now instead of the brain giving you dopamine, you're getting dopamine from an external reward system, which is the gold star. And when these kids stopped getting the gold star, they had essentially been robbed of the reward system they had for drawing, which was internal earlier, and then it was external and connected to the gold star. Now they have no motivation to draw because there's no gold star. This explains why most people have stopped reading, because earlier when you were a kid and you were reading with your parents, or maybe your parents were reading to you, that was a very enjoyable experience that you liked. But when you started going to school, that reward system, which was internal, of you just liking to read the book because it's fun, turned external, and you're now reading a book to get good grades. But guess what? Now, when you're out of school, there's no more grades, so there's no more reading. Your reward system is gone. You've been robbed of your motivation to read. So why would you read? Now, I did promise you guys one simple step that would help you reclaim your mind, solve this problem, so you can sit down and read again, which would help you develop a deeper mind and become more knowledgeable and more intelligent. This step is simply to cut out stimulation when you sit down and read and turn your reward system from an external one to an internal one. Ideally, you read outside and your phone is somewhere away from you, maybe inside, so it can't distract you. So put your phone away. And now you might be asking, how do you turn your external reward system back into an internal reward system? And the answer is very simple. After you read and while you're reading, just acknowledge that you're doing a good job and feel proud of yourself. Reward yourself by just thinking that you're doing a good job. Feel productive, feel good while you're reading. Don't rely on any external motivation, and you'll slowly develop the habit of reading because you'll just enjoy it. Your brain will reward itself for reading, which will want to make it read even more. If this video got you thinking, trust me, there's so much more for you to know about how our minds and our habits are changing. There's another video where I dive even deeper into this, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. Click here and let's keep the journey going.